Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and if you've been a long-time fan of the channel, you may well know that we have a particular penchant, shall we say, for little old Toree. Yes, we've been fans of the Toree series ever since it first came to Switch. I love the little sort of like micro-budget platformer style, and this new one, Toree Saturn, is even bigger still. Bigger, better, just more all over. So why on earth am I not allowed to review it? Well, simply put, I helped make it. Alright, yeah, that's a massive over-exaggeration as to my actual input on the game itself. But suffice it to say, I was involved in some small way, and in one very particular, slightly less small way, some might even say maybe even marginally significant. And in lieu of being able to do a review, because I simply cannot be unbiased, I'm going to be going, well, of course it's amazing. I did a thing. And it's the same for Nintendo Life as a whole. I am in the credits myself. My name is in the credits, which is bonkers for me, I'm not gonna lie, but as a result, we can't be unbiased, so we can't give this an official review and an official score. But I still want to talk about it, and more specifically, my involvement, because Daddy needs an ego boost. But anyway, that's more than enough waffling. Let's dive right into things. So how did all this come about? Well, I can't remember exactly how, but at some point I started chatting to Marcus, the creator of the Toree series, oh god, years ago now, and we just got chatting, back and forth, and I think I like sort of suggested, oh, if you ever want any feedback or anything like that, let me know. And, sort of there was all this sort of, all little twiddly bits back and forth. I ended up giving him some feedback for a game just before launch, but it was like already sort of available on the eShop, at least if you had the code, which he gave to me. And I was like, there's this issue and this issue, and nothing major, but just little things, stuff with like the UI and stuff like that, which he promptly fixed before release. And I think that was a good, but the game had already basically been done. I didn't really have any influence over how the game plays or anything like that. It was just, hey, there's a bug here. It's just a bug report, So we reviewed that one. With Toree Saturn, though, I think, I can't remember if it was me that suggested it or Marcus, or maybe it was just sort of happened. I got an early version of the game running on Windows and stuff like that, obviously not Switch, and he said, provide some feedback. And so I was like, okay. And most of what I had to report was generally positive. Hey, I really like this. This works really well. But there were a few things like, oh, well, this jump isn't quite, sort of convenient. It's a little bit hard. You have to do this specific move, and that's not immediately obvious to new players. And, but, just little things overall. But regardless, I had an impact on the game. Again, minor. With one exception. I mean, I'll be honest, it's still fairly minor. A super quick rundown though. So previous Toree games, you could just basically jump and run. Very simple, very straightforward. Toree Saturn, none of that. You can do a homing attack, which is distinctly Sonic-like. You can also slam down into the ground and dash forward immediately, which is sort of similarly Sonic-like. I mean, come on. It's wearing the inspiration on its sleeves, 100%. I mean, the entire game, I'm not going to go into spoilers, I want you lot to play it and, find a lot of the stuff out for yourself, but the whole game is kind of a love letter to, like, old 3D Sonic games, and, it's a delight. But again, take everything I say with a pinch of salt because I cannot be unbiased. But as a result, the game plays completely differently to the previous Toree games. It is way faster, way more responsive in so many ways. You've got a lot more freedom in how you do things. It's a lot more complicated, but still a reasonably simple moveset, so that it's easy for pretty much anyone to just pick up and play. And I think it's grand. But as I was mucking around with these two new features, homing attack and slamming down, I did something that I don't think Marcus expected. I can't remember if he was aware of this bug or not. He might have been, but I basically, whereas I should have done a homing attack on one of these stars that you homing attack and then you bounce up, instead of doing that, I did the slam down on it because I was above and I was like, haha, this will be cool, wha-bam! And then I couldn't use the homing attack anymore. Something weird had happened and I couldn't use homing attack and I fell off the edge and, not didn't lose a life, but I had to go back to the previous checkpoint. When I found this, I was like, well, it's not like a super major thing, you know, like very few people are probably going to be mucking around in that way, you know. Lining up's quite difficult, your spacing, your timing, it's all very particular. So I didn't think it was a big deal, but even so, I felt that it was a bug that needed addressing. And then I had another thought. Why don't we take this bug and make it a feature? And that's not shorthand for, oh, just, you know, pretend it was always meant to be in there. No, I spoke to Marcus and I came up with a suggestion. I was like, instead of just fixing it so that if you do that, you can just homing attack again and, you know, Bob's your uncle, get on with the game. What if, when you slam down into it, you enter a different kind of state? And if you then land on the ground whilst in this state, you go zoom. Not super different to just slamming down normally, but this is the wrinkle. I thought, because this is so unlikely for people to easily find it within the game. I mean, people will. I'm not suggesting you'll never find it or anything like that, but, you know, it's not something that most people will commonly come across. But as per my suggestion, in the launch version of the game, if you slam down onto a star or one of those boost stars that send you forward or up, anything that you would homing attack, as far as I know, you will enter a separate state, as I mentioned, and you'll actually start to see, if you look not that closely, but you see a lot of stars like rushing into Toree, and that's your first clue that there's something different happening. It's not a glitch, it's very much intentional. And the longer you stay airborne, and that can be from bouncing off things, remember, you do not have your homing attack, so you just have your double jump and your spacing and timing in order to try and make it work. The longer you stay airborne, the faster you'll go when you land. Now, when I was first mucking around with this, I thought, well, this is fun, but I'm not sure whether it's got any major application when it comes to speed running or just, you know, playing the game generally. But it turns out that that's completely wrong. There is some genuine applications for it. I mean, from what I've done, and I'm not a speedrunner, but, you know, I like to muck around with this sort of thing. Like, the very start of the game, I managed to find a really consistent, like, setup where you just slam into the very first boost star. You get a reasonable amount of air, not loads, but enough to get a really pretty decent boost, and you're able to just cut off a much bigger corner than you could have done otherwise. I don't know, maybe there's a better way to do that, and using this technique is kind of redundant, but even so, it works! I know there are other instances as well, instances where you are gonna be free-falling anyway after boosting off something, and you can just get this little speed boost, and it's so satisfying to pull off. Don't get me wrong, it's not easy. Like, it's very much intended to not be an easy thing to just pick up and do. But when you nail it, and if you can nail it, you can get some ridiculous times in things. And I did wonder, and I don't know the answer to this, I want to make it clear, but I do wonder whether there's a ceiling or not. I've managed to stay airborne in certain instances, and it just purely for testing, for a really long time and got some really fast speeds. But I couldn't be certain that it wasn't a speed you could just achieve otherwise in the game. There is an instance in the game where you can see your speed, and I'm not going to show anything of the level or anything like that because, oh, you're going to love it. But you get a number to show your speed, and one of the fastest things you can do as standard is go along these sort of pink-purple strips, and Toree will sort of grind along them. It's dead cool. But you get to 260, sometimes 265 kilometers an hour, or at least I don't know if that's accurate to real life, but that's what the number says. Using this little mechanic I came up with, I've been able to, and I'm certain you can do more, but I've been able to get in excess of 520 kilometers per hour. Obviously only for a burst, and then you start slowing down and stuff like that, but you can clear ridiculous chunks of a stage. You just have to be careful not to touch like boost pads or anything like that, because they drag you back down pretty quickly to your original, well, to the speed that they would denote. So you can have a huge boost and have it cut short, so be careful. I don't want this to be too much of a self-congratulatory thing, because at the end of the day, I'm sure this kind of thing has been done before, you know, an obscure mechanic that can be utilized in a fun way for people who are complete nerds about a game. You know, it's nothing new, but I was still really chuffed that it ended up in the final game, because I didn't know it would. You know, I gave my feedback to Marcus, we had a chat and everything. He seemed to think it was a good idea, but obviously a good idea is not necessarily a good idea in practice, so I didn't know if it was gonna be there. So when I got my code and played it, I was right chuffed. Something that we are seeing so much more of these days is great movement in games, and I am so for it. It is so much fun to be able to wrangle and control a character at ridiculous speeds, for example, or make great big shortcuts, or just cut corners off things. And I adore it, and to be able to be a part of that it feels super, super special, and more importantly, in a game that is this good. Like, previous Toree games, don't get me wrong, have been great, but it is a struggle to go back to them after playing Toree Saturn, because Toree controls superbly in this game, and the levels are better than ever. There's more stuff overall as well. Again, I'm not going to be spoiling, but there are just secrets bursting out of this game. So many little things to unlock here and there. So many extra bits and pieces. There's time attack, ghost data. There's a little story mode is the main thing you'll probably play, with like little cute little cutscenes and stuff like that. And it's not like, oh, you know, I mean, you'll play through the story. You'll probably get through it in 20 minutes, give or take. I mean, okay, my gameplay is not necessarily representative of what you ought to be doing the first time you do it, considering I've already got about 10 hours in this game that, story-wise, you can complete in about 20 minutes, half an hour. But it's so reminiscent of those old classic games where there's just loads of stuff to unlock. You know, oh, what happens if you get this many stars in the game? Oh, what happens if you get all of the ice creams in the level? Like, it's all worth something. It's not getting stickers and then the number turning yellow. Nintendo. I feel like I've beaten this point into the ground, but please do take everything I say with a pinch of salt, because I can't be unbiased. I just can't. My inclusion is essentially a beta tester, and I came up with one mechanic. It's not major, but obviously I want the game to succeed. So, it's hard. I want to sing the game's praises so much, and I'm going to. Yeah, I'm going to. Sod it. You've heard the disclaimer. It's not official. It's just my personal opinion. It's fantastic. It is, in my opinion, the best Toree game ever released, which admittedly, there's not been masses or anything like that, but seriously, I think it's some of Marcus's finest work ever. And even if you never use my mechanic, that doesn't matter. Even without that, it is superb. Absolutely superb. I've enjoyed being a part of it. I've enjoyed playing it even more. I really hope you'll consider giving it a go. I really do, because I feel a bit bad by getting involved, because now Toree Saturn won't have a Nintendo Life review, which sorry. But please do check it out. It's coming out on the 8th of August, and it is fully Switch 2 compatible. Trust me. And thank you, Marcus, for letting me be a part of it. It's been a joy. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then why don't you slam into that subscribe button and desperately try to stay off as long as possible. Wow. And be sure to check out NintendoLife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo-related content. Thank you again for watching. Bye-bye.